Hi everybody, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to teach you how to make and store poultices for off-season use. So before we get started with today's video, I just wanted to take a few seconds to say thank you. I've been getting a lot of really beautiful comments and questions on the channel. And I have to say, it really truly does mean a lot. When you have a small YouTube channel like I do, every bit of interaction I get from you guys is absolutely amazing. So I just wanted to extend a thank you, and a special thank you to my Patreon family. Many of you guys have been with me for a long time, and I can't tell you how much it means to me. And it's you guys that allow me to be able to keep creating content every week. So a special thank you. So now on to poultices. If you haven't seen my video that I did just a couple weeks ago on what is a poultice, how do I make one, I'm going to encourage you to check out this video here. But what I want to talk to you today is about the problem that we often have is when we get injured or we're in need of herbal first aid and there's no plants. So I live in a zone 4 in Ontario, Canada, which means I get at least 6 months of winter. So if we have an injury, say a sprain, a strain, a pulled muscle, a torn ligament, I tweaked my back out, like when my husband is chopping firewood and he kind of throws his back out. What do you do when you've got, a good 2 feet of snow on the ground? And so one of the things that I like to do, not just for my family, but for my surrounding community, is I like to make poultices that I can store over the winter and use them during the off-season months while we don't have any fresh plant material. So what I'm going to be making today is a really large batch of comfrey poultice. And I will be showing you, how I harvest it, how do I process it, and then how do I store it for winter use. Because oftentimes when these injuries happen, like I said, I'm in Canada. We've got a lot of hockey families. So a lot of kids will get injured or, hurt themselves during these colder months. And it's really, really great when I have a freezer full of both first aid poultices as well as more deep tissue poultices. And I'll talk to you about the differences between those two. But for now, we're going to head outside and we're going to harvest some comfrey, and I'll show you some of the other herbs that we could use for a more first aid type poultice. So I'm sitting here in front of one of 3 giant, actually I think we have 4 giant comfrey plants on the property, and this is what I'm going to be harvesting today to make poultices for winter use and for storage. If you haven't seen my video on using comfrey in your garden, I'll link that up here. So comfrey is one of those herbs that I would use in terms of deep tissue injury. So this would be bruises, sprains, strains, torn ligaments, broken bones. Of course, consult your natural health care practitioner. If you're new to this, it's always good to get second opinions. But comfrey has been used to help heal deep tissue injuries for a very, very long time. I don't use this on open wounds or broken skin. Some herbalists will disagree with me on that one, but comfrey does have some hepatotoxic pyrrolidine alkaloids depending on the species, and it's just better to err on the side of caution. But I like having, like I said, I like having these around for those more, like what if you slip and fall on the ice, right? Comfrey poultice would be excellent for that. What if you sprain your ankle? It would be really good for that as well. So this is what I'm going to be harvesting today. And once we get inside, I'll show you the process that I'll use for storing them and making the poultices ahead of time for winter use. You could also harvest your more healing topical vulnerary herbs that are also antibacterial for your injuries that have open wounds, cuts, bites, scrapes, stings, burns, those types of things. So I still have quite a few of those herbs alive on my property in my garden. So I'll show them to you now so you can get an idea of what plants you would want to forage for those types of poultices. But like I said, I don't use comfrey on open wounds personally. So I'll get to showing those to you as well. So you have 2 different options for making your poultices, and the process, what we'll do once we get back inside, is going to be the exact same for those. So I am filming this on September 20th, Zone 4 in Ontario, so I can give you an idea of what's still poking around in the garden and what I could use for a first aid poultice. So again, these would be for things like cuts, bites, scrapes, stings, burns, any wound where you may have open skin. So as you can see, now I just planted this year, and I apologize for the unsteady camera angle. I don't know how to use the gimbal and my husband's at work, so hopefully this isn't making anyone too nauseated, but here I've got tons of yarrow leaves. So this would make a fantastic addition to a first aid poultice. And let's go for a walk. And here I still have lots of marshmallow root. Look at that, even some still in flower. So I would harvest a few of those flowers and some of the leaves. That would be an excellent addition to a first aid poultice if you still have those available. And of course, take a look at my other poultice video because it goes over even more herbs that you would be able to use. One more quick look, and again, I apologize for not having the gimbal. So there, look at that. I've still got calendula in flower, and she'll keep flowering. She will keep flowering until the first hard frost. And right below her, I've got a beautiful plantain. And I still have quite a bit of plantain in the garden too. So between the yarrow, the calendula, the marshmallow root, and the plantain, you've got yourself a pretty nifty first aid poultice that you could make and then store for winter use. So I'm back in from harvesting my comfrey. Now, if you have a copy of my kids' curriculum, Herbs for Kids.
Hi. Hey, what? I'm a kid.
This would be a great time, and this would be a great activity to do with your kids with this curriculum because we have a whole section on first aid, right? Yeah, I'm gonna move your chair over just a tad. So what you're gonna need for this project is you're gonna need a food processor, or if you have a really good blender, that will work well. It helps to have a spatula. You're gonna need some pre-cut parchment paper, squares, or you can use wax paper. Our dollar store's got these really awesome, these really awesome like squares you can purchase, but you're gonna need something so that way you can stack your poultices on top of each other and they won't get stuck into a giant brick. And you're gonna need a little bit of water, but we're not gonna touch the water just yet. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna rip these up into smaller pieces and get them inside our food processor, cramming in as much as possible. They're prickly. Comfrey's got some hair to it.
Oh man.
Yeah. So we're gonna cram as much as we can in here, and we're not gonna add water yet because comfrey itself actually has a lot of water. If you've ever tried to make comfrey infused oil before, you know exactly what I'm talking about because it goes from being beautiful to skunky pretty quick.
Huh?
Oh, watch out, bud.
Why did I do it?
All right, so that's enough for now. Okay, and let's blend that up. And the goal we're going for here,
wait.
Yep, thank you, is a pesto style, like a pesto-like consistency, okay? So you don't want it too watery and you don't want it too thick either. So first we're gonna try pulsing it up this way to see what kind of consistency we have, and then you can slowly add little bits of water. But what I'll actually do is add the rest of the leaves as well, okay? Keep going. Okay, so now I'm gonna take a look, and that has chopped that up amazingly. So that's gonna allow us to add just a little bit more. So like I said, if you've made pesto before, you know what kind of consistency we're going for. Something fairly thick, because remember when you freeze this, it's going to add water or moisture content to it. So it's okay if it's a little thicker than your normal poultices would be.
No.
A little bit more. Cram some more in. So like I said, a good food processor, you could probably use, like I said, if you have a good blender, like a Vitamix or something like that, it will likely work well. All right, same thing. Can you pulse for me?
I'll pulse and make sure this thing is on.
Yeah.
Go. What did that actually?
I'll tell you later. All right, so this is where your spatula comes in because all those leaves just tucked off. Actually, I don't even need it. There we go. So we're gonna get to blending, and when we're done, we will show you what it looks like. I'll get a close up to it and show you how we make the poultice patties. All right, we are back. I probably added, so there you go. I actually went outside and I got more comfrey. So if you have a lot, you can make large batches of this. I maybe added, 2 tablespoons of water? About that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm gonna give you a spatula. Okay.
Me.
And what we're gonna do now, hold on. I'm gonna use my cookie scoop and I'm gonna scoop out some of my comfrey. And you can see again that consistency is sort of like a thicker pesto. I've done this before, so I know what happens when it thaws. So then we're just I'll show you how to do it once. I'll get you to flatten them and we're gonna make little comfrey pancakes. Just like that.
Pancakes.
Yeah, I wouldn't eat these ones. There you go. So I find like this kind of size tends to work really well. And then we'll do the next one. And then you can just stack them on top of each other and freeze them. So I'll show you those a couple more times. So again, it's 1 full cookie scoop, which is probably, I don't know, about, if I had to guess, about 2 tablespoons or so. All right, and here, buddy, give it a try. See if you can flatten it out for us using your spatula. Yeah. So like I said, this is a great job for kids. And then you can get in and kind of mold them.
Oops.
Okay, put it down. Thank you. All right.
I'm not doing a very good job.
That's all right. It's all right. That's how we learn, right?
It's sticking to the...
Yeah, so it is going to stick to the spatula a little bit. So you might even just want to use your hands for this part. You know, if you've ever made hamburger patties before, it's the same kind of idea. So we're just going to form a bunch of comfrey patties just like that. See? Got it nice and flat.
But what makes it a poultice? Like, how do you weigh it?
Well, I've actually got a great video about that. So you want to check out the video I did about how to actually make poultices and apply them. So then you'll just stack them on top of each other. And then when you're all done, you'll tuck them into the freezer. So we were able to make a dozen comfrey poultices. So a couple of tips. I would recommend freezing them on a tray first like this and then stacking them. I found that when I froze them stacked that I would have to go in there with a knife to pry them apart. And of course that could result in an additional injury, which we'd really like to avoid. Another thing that I would recommend is if you're doing these for first aid, so if you're using those other herbs that I mentioned, things like marshmallow, flower, and leaf, calendula, yarrow, plantain, and all of the other wonderful vulnerary herbs that we have, you may want to make these smaller. Injuries that require comfrey poultices tend to be larger surface area, things like bruises, sprains, strains, you know, broken bones, that kind of thing. So you can tinker with the sizing. You can make some smaller, make some larger, or you can always just combine smaller ones if you need to for a larger surface area. If you have any questions or comments on how to make poultices for off-season use, please leave those below. And until next time, this is Correne from Spirea Herbs, wishing you health and wellness.